Islamic extremism only comes from the Islamic religion and from followers of it. And that is an imported problem for Europe.
In a moment, the ever-sharp Douglas Murray takes on a Muslim politician over the pressing issue of Islamic attacks in Europe. The debate revolves around Islamic extremism in Europe. Our main contenders are Douglas Murray, known for his outspoken views on immigration and Islam, and a politician who believes Europe's shared values are at risk. Let's see how this unfolds. The pro-Islam politician kicks things off with a heartfelt plea about shared values and the dangers of nationalism. She insists that Europe's current crisis cannot be solely attributed to economic factors.
The entire EU debate was a primarily financial, economic debate. For us, those of us who come from the periphery of Europe, for us it's mainly a debate on shared values.
Shared values. Such a noble concept, isn't it? But let's be honest here. The idea of shared values often becomes a convenient shield to avoid addressing the real issues. Shared values are great, but what happens when those values clash with the reality of mass immigration and integration failures? Douglas Murray jumps right in, pointing out the elephant in the room, the European political class's failure to manage immigration. He doesn't mince words.
Well, firstly, let me just say that there is a narrative, we've heard a little bit of it so far, that the publics of Europe are being led astray by talented demagogues. It's possible as well.
Bravo, Douglas. Finally, someone who calls it as it is. Politicians have been dodging these issues for far too long, leaving the public frustrated and unheard. Isn't it ironic that those who are supposed to lead are the ones most disconnected from reality? The Muslim politician keeps harping on about emotions and shared values while completely ignoring the cold, hard facts staring us in the face. One of the most striking moments in this debate is when Murray shares an anecdote about politicians privately supporting his views but publicly denouncing him. This hypocrisy is as rampant as it is infuriating.
Throughout my life, I never forget the time many years ago, I think when France first banned the headscarf, I've told this story before, of a Labour MP in a studio with me discussing the rights and wrongs of this. And
that's the classic tale of political correctness.
Islamic extremism only comes from the Islamic religion and from followers of it. And that is an imported problem for Europe.
It's like a disease that spreads through the political class, preventing them from addressing real issues. They are so scared of being labeled that they end up saying nothing at all. How are we supposed to solve problems if we cannot even talk about them?
Politicians, when I say this to them, their eyes go huge. They daren't tread onto this. But there's a very straightforward fact, I'm afraid, on this terrorism thing that has to be confronted. Extremism and violence can come from absolutely any community, pretty much.
Let's bring in some real-life examples to hammer this point home. Remember the Charlie Hebdo attack? It wasn't just an attack on a magazine. It was an assault on free speech. And what did we learn? That satire can get you killed in Europe if it offends the wrong people. In fact, a teacher was killed in France for showing such cartoons.
Were fascist and Islamophobic and so on for defending the French Republic's verdict on the headscarf. And we came out and this Labour MP patted me on the back and said, "Never forget, Douglas, we're all with you."
How's that for shared values? Our Muslim politician shifts gears, talking about the anxiety and emotion surrounding immigration. She paints a picture of a populist driven by fear rather than facts.
A history teacher who discussed caricatures of Prophet Muhammad with his students was beheaded, and the suspect was shot dead by the police near Paris. The attack took place in the street in front of the school where the victim worked. This gruesome incident happened in a suburb around 40 kilometers from Paris. The attacker, armed with a knife and an air gun, was shot dead a few streets away from where the teacher was beheaded.
Age of anxiety? More like age of incompetence. The public's concerns aren't just born out of thin air. They are based on real, observable issues. The political class has failed to address these concerns, leading to this so-called anxiety. Isn't it funny how politicians love to psychoanalyze the public instead of doing their jobs? Murray dives deeper into the dangers of political correctness, pointing out how it stifles debate and prevents us from addressing real issues head-on.
But we need to talk about other things as well, particularly emotions, which has been so underestimated in mainstream political theory. But I do believe that this is the age of anxiety, angst, anger.
Right on the money, Douglas.
Islamic extremism only comes from the Islamic religion and from followers of it. And that is an imported problem for Europe.
Political correctness is like a gag order on society. We cannot address the problem of Islamic extremism if we are too scared to even name it. It's like trying to cure a disease without diagnosing it. Ridiculous, right?
They've said, what are you talking about? When did the Spanish Inquisition return? And then we all became used to it, that there were certain things you couldn't do that were actually blasphemy in a country like this and were punishable.
Let's pause for a moment and think about the absurdity here. We are in Europe, the birthplace of enlightenment and free thought, yet we are too afraid to criticize ideas that pose a real threat. Our Muslim politician brings up terrorism and how it is linked to immigration. She tries to downplay the connection, but Murray isn't having any of it.
But where we are right now is many populist demagogues, and I think we need to use this word, they are saying to the people, you know what, these people, the elite, they're always getting it wrong. And you are the pure people, you just need to trust your guts, your instincts. You don't need these intellectuals. Yeah. So the denigration of the intellect to me is a very dangerous trend.
Oh, the old populist demagogue trick. When in doubt, blame the populist. But let's get real here. The public isn't just blindly following demagogues. They are reacting to the real and present dangers of unchecked immigration and the rise of terrorism. Douglas Murray comes back with a sharp rebuttal, emphasizing the unique problem of Islamic extremism.
And now we're told we have to accept the terrorism. Well, maybe we do have to accept the terrorism as part of our life, but the publics have a right to be looking at the politicians and saying, look, this is a problem you brought in.
Exactly. It's not about demonizing a group. It's about recognizing a problem and addressing it.
But unless we're willing to do that bit of identifying, to my mind, the gap between what the public can see and what the public know, and what the political class is even willing to whisper, will continue to grow, and that's the gap where you have to worry.
Pretending it doesn't exist won't make it go away. It's like trying to ignore an elephant in your living room. Good luck with that. It's refreshing to hear someone speak with such clarity and conviction. We must protect free speech, even if it means confronting uncomfortable truths. Otherwise, we risk losing the very foundation of our democratic society. In the end, what's left to say? The Muslim politician was left speechless, not because she had no points to make, but because Douglas Murray systematically dismantled every argument with facts, logic, and a healthy dose of reality. It is a stark reminder that in the battles of ideas, only the truth prevails.